Hello, in this video I'll go through question 1C on Map 2019. And for this question we're given this equation and we want to know which of these five graphs represent this equation. Alright, so first of all, there is only one graph in which y is negative in some places. So that's quite a big distinguishing factor. So let's look at this graph first. So will y be negative in some places? Well, let's look at the powers of the signs. We can see that they're all even, so what does that tell us? Well, whenever we raise anything to an even power, it can't be negative, right? So each of these terms will be greater than or equal to 0. So when we sum them all up, that means y is always going to be greater than or equal to 0. Therefore, we can't have this graph where y is less than 0 in some places. So we can rule option E out immediately. And that's nice because now we can see all four graphs on the screen at the same time. Okay, so looking at these four, what are the important values of x that we're going to want to investigate? We can see for each of these graphs, minus 90 and plus 90 degrees have something going on. So we've got some maximums on these two, and we've got some sort of the graph going to infinity on these two. So let's think about what happens at plus and minus 90 degrees in this equation. So at plus and minus 90 degrees, what are each of the terms going to be equal to? Well, sine of plus or minus 90 degrees is plus or minus 1. So when we raise that to an even power, that means each of these terms will be equal to 1. And we've got infinitely many terms, so we're adding 1 up infinitely many times. So what's that going to give us? Well, it's certainly not going to give us 1 or 2. It's going to go to infinity. So that means neither B nor D will be our answer, and our answer will be either A or C. So both of these go to infinity at plus and minus 90 degrees. So how are we going to distinguish between them? Well, we can look at what y is at 0, right? Because for this first one, we would get y equals 1, and for the second one, y is equal to 0. So what do we get when x is 0 in this equation? So what's sine of 0? That's just equal to 0, right? And when we raise 0 to any power, we still get 0. So when x is equal to 0, each of these terms will be equal to 0. So if we're adding zeros up, that means that our y is going to be 0 as well. So we should see y equals 0 at x equals 0, which means that it's going to be option C. And I've just realized that I've actually labeled my graphs wrong. So this one should actually be labeled D, and this one is the one that should be labeled C. So I'm sorry about that, but it's the graph that looks like this one.